Fantastic. Thank you, Simeon. And we also have a couple of folks, three, in fact, that are going to join us up here that actually took part in what we're going to share with you. Our colleague from Malawi, if I could ask him to come up and join us. And where in the world is George right now? George from IPSL. If he's around, hopefully we can find him. I think he is. Fantastic. Come on up and join us, George. So what are we going to talk about? If we have some three slides, that I'm hoping that we can bring up. And what we did yesterday was we got together as a group and we talked about the level 1 project, all right? Tried to really get into what this really means and how it informs how we build payment systems. And let me tell you, this is one of the most challenging assignments I've had in this project, because the level 1 project bootcamp is normally a 2.5 to 3 days of an intensive discussion. My task was to bring all of this content into a single day. And let me tell you, I did an okay job, but the attendees, they did an amazing job of bringing out all of the concepts that we wanted to touch. And in fact, they were getting to things before we could with our slide deck, my colleague Jean Nayer and I. So it was a really fun, deeply rewarding day from my perspective. And then my next biggest challenge was really to say, how are we going to share with you guys in less than 30 minutes what we did all day? And you know what? I'm so excited about what we're going to show you. And then we really only have 3 slides. And this cover slide is the first one, just to introduce you to what we did. And so for anyone who's not familiar, the level 1 project, and we have one more session tomorrow morning if you want to learn a little bit more, it's the foundation of how we think about what makes an inclusive instant payment system work. Really thinking about it from the, if you will, the inside out, and then trying to articulate why we do and make the choices that we do. And I'm lucky that we have some folks who are going to share with you their impressions from yesterday. But let's jump into our second slide, which is my summary of everything we talked about. This was our day. So what do we see here, right? The level 1 project has multiple levels to it. No pun intended there. Just like any good project, there are a number of goals that inform what we do. You know, we've talked about these terms today, but affordability and usefulness guide everything, and we need to reach inclusive outcomes. What else did we talk about, Gene?
Well, does this work? Yes, it does. So I am very linear, so I really just go to the slides. And so when I look at some of these things, they have wide agreement. So for example, everybody agrees that irrevocable is key, because without that, you cannot have instant availability of money. So very little discussion there. Then when you get to things like open loop, we have discussions about inclusivity. Does every FI, DFSP belong? Can everyone be a direct member? Can everybody be a settlement member? Those were the types of discussions we went through. Then under attributes, some of the things that occur to me is everybody agrees again to scale and ubiquity, but then how do you get scale? You want to have all use cases implemented. And I've just had a conversation with my colleague from Sierra Leone, and they're of course talking about how do we manage risk Because if we try to implement every use case at the same time, and this is the first time where we're implementing something like this, we may lose, if we don't do it right, we may lose confidence. So again, uh, the key point here is that even though some of the design principles and attributes are not in dispute, drilling down into details of what do they mean and how do they apply in the context of a given country was critical to what we do. And similarly, one of the big items, and here we are in Rwanda, is what does it mean for to have cost recovery? What does it mean to be low cost, not for profit? And it has a variety of this attribute has a variety of attributes, right? So cost recovery, when does it start? When does it end? We've talked about that grantees have maybe a 2-year time horizon, and cost recovery might be 5, 7, 10-year cost horizon, depending on how things go. And that, of course,
So I think what you're saying is we had a lot of deep
we had.
conversation.
Yes. And there's just one thing that I have to mention because here we are, and that is we did talk about tools.
Yeah.
And Mojaloop and the fraud product Hamza. And of course, the deep conversation about why and what does that mean. And I think there are two things that we talked about. And I think the benefits of open loop are certainly were broadly understood, I think, among the people in our seminar, a bootcamp, and the fact that it drives towards low cost, not just during the implementation, but through the life of the system, because you don't necessarily have to pay any maintenance fees or support fees to the commercial vendor. But another thing that came out just in a session before is that these open loop systems then enable the development of the local resources. They are the ones who are trained to then take over the system and run it. And I think that is a key attribute of the overall program. And this is another attribute in terms of being pro-poor and fostering development. And I think I'll pause here.
Yeah, thank you, Gene. And one other thing that I like about the visualization that we have here for you is that it shows you that it's all part of a ecosystem. One decision, one layer informs the other, right? None of these can really be successful in isolation. And in some ways, honestly, it's a overwhelming thought, right? That we need to make all of these choices in concert. But on the other hand, we have such a rich community of sharing and experience now. And so that's actually what we did yesterday. I encouraged the group who was with us to not only ask questions, make comments as they had them, but to share their own experiences with the others in attendance. We were just over 30 people. So it's a really good size to have a deep conversation. And it was delightful how much sharing occurred in the room. And we all learned new perspectives from the different experiences. But you've seen my best artwork this week, if not forever. I'm really proud of this slide. And at least humor me that you are too. But I said this, we had 3 slides, and I'm going to hold the third one for when we're done, because now is the best part of this session. I asked for volunteers who would come share their experience or their impressions of what we learned, maybe their takeaways from yesterday, and just general thoughts. There's no rehearsing here. So we're just going to go and ask colleagues in attendance. First, we have a representative from Kenya. George, tell us about your day?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me here. So first, let me say thank you to you and Jean for holding a very insightful session. Yeah, even for us who consider ourselves payment folks, operators, switch operators. So I think the first takeaway for me was I really liked the consistency in the vocabulary. There are a lot of terms that are conflated in terms of when you talk about an interoperable system, an open system, an inclusive system. Are you talking about the same thing? So for me, it was clear that it's important to define these terms in a very succinct manner. And what I really liked were the visuals. They were unambiguous. They were so candid, because even when having conversations with people, you have these arguments that, no, this particular system is open because anybody can participate. But when you put up the visual, it's very clear. So that was great. I think the second one was just understanding why these principles are important. I thought that was really, really key so that we can continue to have discussions with our stakeholders. Why is it important for banks to consider zero or near zero fees for certain kind of transfers? What are they going to get in return? And then the third one for me was the how, which I guess is where we spend a lot of our time. And I really enjoyed the fact that the session was not really prescriptive, telling us, go do this. It was more informative of, this is what so-and-so has done, and this is the impact they've had. This is what so-and-so has done, and this is the impact that they have had. And it was also a bit of an insight that some of the things we're going to try and do here are going to take time. You come to a convening like this, you're motivated, you go back and meet your team, go back and meet your boss, and you're so full of enthusiasm, we're going to do this tomorrow. And then you realize tomorrow is another 3 or 4 years. So it was very enlightening that it's going to take time, but with the right knowledge and the right tools, you can make that time count. So thank you.
Okay. Fantastic. I appreciate that. Over to you.
Okay. Okay, so let me start by thanking Elizabeth, you and James for the presentation yesterday. And then also I would like to extend my profound thanks to the Institute for Inclusive Digital Africa for the invite to the Central Bank of Liberia. Yesterday's session was quite insightful, like my colleague said. It was quite engaging with the sharing of ideas from different jurisdictions, in addition to the slides and the conversation by you and James. My key takeaway was the point that emphasized, besides the infrastructure, the digital public infrastructure, but the need for collaboration with different government agencies to ensure that financial inclusion is deepened, leveraging digital financial services. We talk about looking at the central bank, other regulators, even the government or the Ministry of Finance. For us, it's the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning, looking at the overall government's objective and how collaboration can leverage and ensure that the last mile is reached. Also, a key takeaway for me was, especially for our current position, we haven't selected a solution for an instant and interoperable system yet. So my key takeaway was looking at a solution that is quite scalable, that can be easily adopted and can be owned. Also looking at different settlement modalities based on whether it is a direct participant or an indirect participant, looking at closed loop solution like what we have with the RTGS, our automated clearinghouse, against the open loop solution that provides so much comfort. That was a key takeaway and learning curve for me. And then the last point was looking at, the most feared situation, which is fraud. We talk about that extensively, what to look for, what actions to be taken to ensure that whatever infrastructure that is considered is free of fraud or minimized. Yes, we look at the governance and all of that. So in summary, it was quite an engaging time for me, especially the exchanges in the room, learning from Sierra Leone, my colleague Alfred, and from other central banks and other participants. It was quite engaging. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing those perspectives. And it's interesting, you took away different things in some ways, right? We had a really rich discussion, so not surprising in that regard. Yeah. All right.
Good afternoon, everybody. So for me, this being my first time, I think joining these conversations, I found them very useful. At first, I was blank. So I hear, first of all, I would like to salute, I think, the person that coined, I think, the name Mojaloop. Because as I sat and reflected, I think, on the powerful message behind this and relate this, I think, to our unique situations in a different jurisdiction, you can't help, I think, to see the ingenuity behind this. I'll explain why. Where I'm coming from, I think, which is not uncommon in most of our countries, we have issues with, to do with poverty. And greater financial inclusion is seen as a solution, one of the solutions, I think, to these issues. And Malawi, I think, is one of those countries where financial inclusion is really low. One, I think the rates are low because access to not just financial services, but appropriate financial services is low. Cause of issues to do with cost, stakeholder buy-in, and the issues. And you look at Mojaloop, it solves some of those issues. Why? I think the key message of inclusivity, one at the platform level, if you include all stakeholders, you reduce on the cost of integration costs. And then when more service providers are gathered together, it also sort of drives up competition and then the quality, which is informed by the need to offer appropriate digital financial solutions to our masses. And again, because of competition, you find that access costs or fees to these digital financial solutions also go down. Inclusivity at product level. It offers a broad range because it's not just enough to have one or two or use these digital solutions just for remittances, P2P. But we want to leverage, Mojaloop offers that opportunity to leverage, I think, the different solutions that we have for transformative purposes. At the end of the day, we bring insurance services, okay? And what have you, so that we build resilience in our people. Mojaloop offers that. Inclusivity at a regional level. We're trying to grapple with issues to do. Yesterday we saw my brother there from Malawi and Jedida from commercial level, what they're trying to do. Regional integration issues, or Mojaloop offers that issue so that we no longer live in isolation. And these products will not only save us at a domestic level, but even at cross-border issues. And another key issue that we saw was, as we're building this, there's need for standards that are going to guide us. Okay, and it's not enough just to have homogeneous standards, but we should be able to enforce them. And enforcing this also brings another element of inclusivity. It's not just the scheme operator, but the regulator there, the service providers there. Everyone has to be aware. And in delivering this awareness, everyone has to play a role. The government has to play a role. The service provider has to play a role. So that at the end of the day, we bring financial inclusion, or we promote financial inclusion in our environment. And as a regulator, I want, by the time that I go home, to be confident that affordability does not imply vulnerability. Because for me, I want the masses, I want to retain confidence in the masses, in the solutions that we are offering. We don't want them to come tomorrow and say, you are the regulator that pushed for this. You allowed this to come into our space. Kyung talked about the issue of bringing awareness to the masses, something like that. But where I come from, because I only heard about Mojaloop like 4 or 5 months ago, I wasn't even aware. So we are making an effort, to the regulators, to the service providers, but I'm not sure if my Minister of ICT or my Minister of Finance back home are also aware of this. So we talked about maybe addressing specific needs of different funders. Maybe Malawi was left out. Maybe I think it wasn't that important at that point. But now, this is the way I think that we need to think about bringing this awareness to everybody else in our societies. So maybe let me stop here.
Thank you so much, all three of you. I think you all took different things away from your unique contexts. And just first of all, please let's thank them for sharing. I really do appreciate. And I think also what I took here, that they all had unique findings or unique meaning from the day, means that there's probably something for every one of us here too. Many of you have already seen the level1project.org website. And now if I could just bring back our third slide, and that is that we have this website, level1project.org. Who has visited it even once? All right. It could be better. Yeah, we know we're trying to work on it. And that's the subject of the third slide, which I'm really, really hoping that we're going to show you. So because we're asking for your help in making it better. So take out your phone, either scan the QR code or go to the URL and provide your input. We'll show you this again tomorrow morning too, but we'd love to hear from you. It'll take less than 5 minutes, probably more like 3. So you will have your say in what the Level 1 project is really all about as well. And I thank you in advance for the time to, share desires, inputs, comments. And I really thank Simeon for giving us this opportunity to come in and tell you about what we did. Maybe we'll have opportunities to share the Level 1 project more deeply with some of your implementations. And thank you all again for helping. And Jean, thanks again. And I think it's over to Simeon. Did you finish your survey? Okay, excellent.